I'm Bennett Scheer, and this is American Idol Unaired. If you're watching this, I know if you have been watching my channel for the past couple of weeks, you may have noticed we have no longer been uploading the full video interviews for free because of our Patreon Idol Unaired exclusive. But I didn't want you to miss out on today's episode because we have got not one, not two, but three guests joining us, and we have got the judges. Well, not exactly. You'll know what I mean in just a second, but I did not want you to miss out. In fact, if you were listening, I would recommend that you go watch on YouTube American Idol Unaired because we've got Lionel Richie, Katy Perry, and Luke Bryan, the contestants that had the same names as the judges, and we've never done anything like this, having three contestants that were all filming the same season in the same city of the Idol auditions, sharing in their experiences, bonding over what it was like to film. It's one of my favorite episodes I've ever done, and I hope that you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed sitting back and listening to them and meeting Katy, Luke, and Lionel. So if you want to join the Patreon at the end, link is in the description for the YouTube and the podcast. But for right now, let's meet Lionel Richie, Katy Perry, and Luke Bryan. You guys were on season 21 of American Idol. Same names as the judges. Lionel, let's start with you. Tell us about yourself, also known as L Rich. So take it away.
So just for clarifications, my name is actually Lionel Miranda. But growing up, I'm sure, do any of you guys know another Lionel? Have you guys ever met one before? So no one knew my name, right? They couldn't say it necessarily. They couldn't spell it. Whenever I go to Starbucks or something, I always butcher it on the cup. So since I was like third grade, I would always have to say Lionel, like Lionel Richie. So that's what everyone in my hometown knows me as. And when I first got Instagram like a decade ago, I had the handle Lionel Richie with two E's at the end. Obvious reasons, I couldn't get the one with one E at the end. Naturally, everyone that I've ever come across just automatically calls me Lionel Richie. Because I make music as well, it was tough to have that name. I'm sure Luke and Katy, you guys experienced this before. So I actually recently shortened it to L Rich. So my Instagram handle now is lrich.music. But that's only like within the last year. Forever, it was Lionel Richie with two E's at the end. Yes, I think that's a cool, thing that connects with Lionel Richie, and I'm actually named after him myself.
I was not named after Katy Perry, which I think is one of the funniest things people ask me, is if my parents named me after Katy Perry, and I'm like, well, if you do the math, she was like 7 when I was born, so no. But it is, it's a great conversation starter. It's haunted me, followed me everywhere. I don't know if you know Steve Perry from the band Journey, but my dad's name is Steve Perry as well. So it's like it's a little bond. But yeah, I mean, both first and last name are spelled different, but it's an easy way to get people to remember my name. So yeah.
Just like me, I always just introduce myself as Lionel Richie.
Yeah, I'm like Katy Perry. No, I'm not kidding. And no, I was not named after her. And no, it's not my mom's fault. So, yeah.
I'm not named after him either.
But do people ask you?
Oh, every day. I swipe my debit card anywhere, like Starbucks, and they're like, oh, it's not him. Especially because I live in Nashville.
Yeah.
So, but I remember, I'll never forget. It was like 2007 when he got famous, and I was in the computer lab in school, and we just had time to be free. And I remember Googling my name just cause, and I saw there was a country music artist with my name. I was like, nope, I want to do that. He can't do that. And then he just took off, and I was still 12. So I just had to sit there and wait, but that is it's my legit name, same spelling, same everything. And I've been intertwined with him in a weird way for forever. Cause Wikipedia is not the most truth source all the time. They don't vet their stuff too properly. And there was a time period where Luke Bryan's page, when you would ask how tall is Luke Bryan, it had my height listed from my basketball stats. So there was a 4-year period where he was listed as 6'8", and he was in an interview one time. He was like, I don't know why people think I'm 7 feet tall. but it was my fault.
That's you. It was your fault.
All my fault.
Wow.
Funny.
So I want to hear about everybody's journey to American Idol because Katey, Luke, and Lionel, I mean, did you each audition on your own? Did some of you get recruited? And you told me beforehand, you all knew each other. It sounds like you all filmed in the same city. So how did you each get there?
I was reached out to on Instagram. I'm sure you guys may have a similar situation to this. And actually met a couple other people who were reached out to as well. So it seems like a little bit of mix of like people proactively reaching out or applying with American Idol, and it seems like there is a lot of like casting reach outs as well, recruiting going on. So yeah, got the Instagram DM, and I showed it to my girlfriend the next day, like, hey, look at this. I was like, this got to be fake, you know? So I put it into my phone, the number that was included in the message, just so I can try to text or call. And I did text first, right? And it popped up as a blue message, which was a good sign to me. It's an iPhone user. It's not like a Google chat or a fake scam. So I was like, you know what? It's a blue message. It has a possibility of being real. Let me reach out and try to connect over a phone call. Phone call turned into a handful of Zooms and pre-auditions. And then before you know it, you're recording in front of the judges. So yeah, that was my journey. Obviously there was a lot more to it, but I don't want to take too much time.
Yeah, you want to know the sad thing? I auditioned on my own. I auditioned because Leah Marlene from last season is from my hometown, and she got third. And I was like, if she can do that, and she's from Normal, Illinois, I can do that. And plus my name's Katy Perry. So like it'll be like good, it'll be like good airtime. They'll be like, oh my gosh, she's from Normal, Illinois, and her name's Katy Perry. So I submitted the DM to a casting agent, an American Idol casting agent that I found that Leah posted about. And so I submitted to her. We emailed back and forth a little bit. And then I had 2 Zoom meetings, one with the casting agents and one with the executive producers. And then they were like, yeah, we'll see what Katey, Luke, and Lionel have to say about you. It's a yes. And so like I got a yes from them. And then I was shipped off to Las Vegas. So yeah.
By the way, so kind of a connection between Katey and Luke. You mentioned Leah, Normal, Illinois. So I went to Belmont University for some time. Luke, where you attend, and Leah Marlene also went to Belmont for some time. We were in the same songwriting class together. And I remember the first day of school, I'm carpooling with her. I'm in the back seat and we're all saying where we're from. And she's like, oh, I'm from Normal, Illinois. And I, of course, being myself, I'm like, oh, you mean like some normal town, like some regular old city? And she's like, no, I'm from Normal, Illinois. Anyway, so, we're in this songwriting class and I'm like, that girl is a star. She goes on to get 3rd place on American Idol.
She's literally the most she's so talented. She's so talented. I could go on and on about her, but yeah. I remember discovering her music like when we were both still in high school, and like listen to her earlier stuff. It's still so good. And I like have an Instagram DM from her from like 2018 of me being like, hey, I just want to let you know, I think you're incredibly talented and I hope you go be a star somewhere. And like, so
nice.
Yeah.
You called it.
I did, yeah. But I'm also from Normal, Illinois. So, and yes, it's a real place.
That is awesome. So Luke, man, audition yourself, scouted?
Yeah, so that's funny to me what Katey just said. I was under the impression, I completely just made all this up in my head, but I felt like they reached out to all of us on Instagram because I was reached out to on Instagram too. And just like Lionel, I thought it was fake the first time. So I looked up the person's name that reached out to me on LinkedIn and then saw that under her credentials, it said American Idol producer. I was like, okay, all right, well, I'll respond to it now. But I let it go for like 8 hours before I responded because I was like, that just seems like spam.
Yeah.
But, they reached out to me during the summer and I was home on break from school and I brought in one of my buddies. His name's also Luke, but they call him Little Luke because I'm the bigger one.
There is no Luke taller than you.
I haven't found one for sure. There was a contestant there taller than me though. That blew my mind. Y'all remember him?
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
we're
I
actually
remember we took that picture together, and I'm just sitting next to Luke. I look like a little kid.
This is 60. I genuinely, like, I had to go up to you. I'm like, I'm sorry. I know you get asked this every day, but how tall are you? And you were like, 6'8". And I was like, thank you.
That's the thing. Like, I figured I was like, we're singers. I was like, to be sure, there's not someone taller than 6'8" out here. And then I turned around and I saw, I don't know if I can say his name yet because I haven't seen him on TV yet, but I saw him and I was like, dang, he's like at least 6'9". I was like, I walked up to him and I was like, 6'9". He goes, 6'9". I was like, nice. And, but back to my, journey with that, it was in the summertime and I got that DM on Instagram, and the next day I had a phone call with the producer that was working with me. And shortly after that, maybe 2 weeks later, I had one audition rather, over Zoom, and got through that. And then I had a second one with the executive producers. And in that one, my dad was like behind. So I had my laptop set up on like a stool because I was standing and, tall. And so it's like right in front of my dad, and my dad's in a recliner and he's in the room. And the room I was in, like, we have like an Elvis shrine in my house. It's got all these Elvis albums and stuff and a red baby grand piano and all this stuff. And so they're looking around the room and they're like, what's going on with this room? And I was like, well, my grandpa and my dad were Elvis impersonators, so this is like an Elvis room. And they're like, oh man, like, is your dad like around? I was like, he's actually right behind the camera. And so they were like, well, bring dad over here. And so before I did like my official audition, they wanted me and my dad to sing a song together. So he played on the piano, and we did Unchained Melody together. And then I did my actual songs that I auditioned with. And that was the second audition. And then from there, I went to Las Vegas with them.
So how much of the initial process was it about you guys having the same names? Because we heard about, Katey just kind of signing up for yourself and not even being named after Katy Perry, and Luke having so much of your story revolving around, being a musician and loving Elvis, and Lionel not having the actual last name Richie. But when you sign up for the show, do producers take notice? How much of that conversation before you get to your city is about, hey, we're going to do this segment revolving around you guys having the same names?
Well, I wanted to ask the question. Well, first and foremost, did you know it was a segment for the other two?
I did not.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, I was like, that's probably, since you two were both approached and I was not, that's probably why I was the most emotional afterwards. I auditioned first. It was us back to back, wasn't it? It was one after the other. It was me, Lionel, and Luke. And it just was not pretty seeing me afterwards. I apologize, Lionel, that you saw me like sobbing.
Okay. I thought you were getting down in there, so I was outside snapping my fingers for you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, so I didn't know. And does someone else want to talk?
Go ahead, Luke.
Well, I will say, I obviously had the conversations about myself and the connection, but I had no idea about you guys. I didn't know it was like a whole bit, right? So I was aware that it was like a synchronicity, like, wow, this is weird, but I didn't know it was that, like, the other Ryan Seacrest too. Like, I didn't know it was that in depth, right?
Yeah, I didn't even know there was a Ryan there. And I think it's funny because, Luke, you and I met on the elevator.
Yeah.
Like, we literally were just on the elevator going back up to our hotel rooms, and you were like, I was like, hi, I'm Katey, and you were like, hi, I'm Luke Bryan, and I was like, let me try again, hi, I'm Katy Perry. So then we were like, oh my gosh, no way. And then we were filming a segment, and then like you were like, there's a Lionel running around here too. So then we all met up. And
I know, yeah. How did that happen? Because I remember outside we were watching the
opening,
judges come in through the red carpet, and then you guys pulled me aside. Hey, are you Lionel?
Yeah,
I don't think we were supposed to figure that out beforehand.
But it fully was just like it
was circumstantial that you and I were in the elevator together, which is the only reason that we knew. And then that kind of had our ears perked up for the possibility of another name. And then when we heard that there was a guy named Lionel, we were like, let me guess.
And I'm over here I just talk to everybody. If I'm sitting there, I'm having a conversation. Right. So naturally, I feel like I'm introducing myself as Lionel to other people. And so I'm over here kind of hanging out by myself. And then you two approached me
I
together.
think like we were
And
like
I think that's when we took the
standing
photo.
next to each other. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because
Yeah.
we'd already known each other, and then we were lined up on the red carpet for the.
Yep. And
Yeah.
we were a couple people down from each
And
other.
like that picture that we took, like that we took that for us. That was
Oh yeah, we have a picture.
Yeah.
All of us have a
of
picture
the three of us, just like, oh my gosh, this is so funny. And then I
That's
think
pre-audition too.
the gears slowly started turning of like, oh, this might become a bit, because I think Lionel, at one point you were like, do you think they knew we were all going to be in Las Vegas together? And I was like, yeah, I think that was fully intentional.
I don't know. I don't know if Ryan was in Las Vegas.
I don't
No.
think he was. I think Ryan was somewhere else, or she was the
Yeah,
last.
she, right. But they did confirm. They asked me right off the bat, hey, your name is actually Lionel, right? Right, because they saw that I had a stage name at that point. And so they were confirming, and they asked me who you named after. And well, like you said, Katie, the math doesn't math up. Yeah, there's only 7 years difference. Obviously with Lionel Richie being a star in the 80s, it did align with myself. So
Right.
I confirmed that on their end. And I still had to sing for the judges and everything like that. So I think it's actually kind of cool that if we didn't have any musical talent, I don't think the bit would have worked out because we would have not got past the Zooms. But yeah, I was watching some of Bennett's channel, and it seems like there's a handful of mixture of people being scouted and or recommended from previous guest judges, or people who have auditioned in the past, or people applying directly through American Idol. So yeah. I didn't know. I thought all three of us were scouted.
That's what I assumed as well.
Yeah.
No, I'm the idiot of the group, and
No.
I wanted to do it.
I mean, I'm sure all of us wanted to do it.
It's not like I mean, speaking for me, it's not like I thought that there wasn't a shot. Like I didn't think it was, you know what I mean? I just assumed that it was going to be something that was going to be good for television. And I was like,
Yeah, I thought it would be good for television, and I thought, we would at least, like the three of us, that we would at least go to Hollywood, and just, then they would kind of like trickle us off during Hollywood week. But it was pretty disappointing, to say the least. I do have to say.
I know it's an emotional experience, which is why I really want to dive into how you each felt individually when you walked into that room. But first, you guys did enter this as a solo competition, and so before you went into the judge's room and before you became aware of what was going on with this bit that they had planned, are there any tidbits that you each want to share about, memories that you made just on your own before you kind of became enthralled in this Luke, Lionel, Katy bit, other contestants that you may have met or experiences that you had filming interviews, really anything, whoever wants to go first.
Let me think about it. You guys can kick it off.
I will have to say, Michael in the first episode, who like now he's known as like the person who stole Katy Perry's heart. Let's just say he also stole this Katy Perry's heart. He was like the sweetest person I've ever met. I remember right before they pulled me to go do my audition, I went up to his mom and I was like, "Are you his mom?" And she was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "You have raised such a nice kid. Well done." So like, no, that was great. My dad came with me, so I got to spend a lot of time in a swanky hotel room with my father watching true crime, waiting for them to call us downstairs. But no.
I will speak on Michael. We ended up hitting it off really well, and we became really good friends, and he and I still talk like every 3 or 4 days. And we had a time, because when we were waiting, the waiting room we were in was like this really nice restaurant in the hotel. So there's like a bunch of booths and tables and areas for us to, relax and practice and do whatever. And Michael and I were just sitting beside each other at one point for like 3 hours, just talking about everything, like where we grew up, what we liked, what we were about. And then we legitimately became really good friends. And I'm friends with like probably 10 people that, I still keep up with to this day. And we just like Snapchat or talk or send recommendations to each other, or they'll tell me to do something on TikTok and I'll tell them to do something on TikTok. And, I built some cool relationships through that process.
Yeah, I have to support that as well. There's some people I'm still messaging to this day And obviously, I think even like Katie and I have contacted each other briefly in between now and the end of the auditions. One guy that stuck out to me was Tyson Venegas.
Yeah.
He was also in Las Vegas, super friendly guy. I just remember just like hanging out, like waiting my turn for whatever I had to do next and sitting by myself. And he would just approach, hey, what's going on? Where are you from? You know, explaining himself. I was like, this guy's super bubbly. And then the next day he comes out with did he get the platinum ticket or
Yeah.
yeah. And so that was awesome. And then now I'm just like following him on Instagram. He's at like 20, 30,000 followers. I'm like, all right, good job, man. He's a youngin too. And then Ashley Tankard was in my group. And she really stuck out to me because one, she's super cool and her sister was cool. Second thing was she was just super nervous ahead of it. But then I'm wondering why. And when I go back to watch her episode, I didn't realize she had tried out 15 times, you know, multiple times per year, multiple seasons in a row. And then finally was given the next round. So Katie, don't be too hard on yourself. I'm telling Ashley over here, I'm messaging her on the side like, hey, that's what happens when you continue to practice, grow, and keep trying, right?
She
not a lot of people would do that.
Yeah, she auditioned right before me, and I remember listening to her and just being like,
yeah,
oh, she was so good.
Like in my interview or my audition, whenever he was asking me what my name was, I was like, Luke Bryan. He was like, no way, not having it. And I was like, I don't know what to tell you. It is. But then he was like, give me your wallet. And I was like, so great, I'm getting robbed now too. So I pulled my ID out and I hand him my ID and he just starts freaking out. And Katy Perry starts crawling around on the floor. And Luke's like running around with my ID and he like holds my whole ID up to the camera. I'm like, well, there goes my address. And I almost didn't get my ID back, by the way, because we have to leave like after.
Damn.
But so we were just talking about that, and he was like, we had like 8 minutes of banter before I ever sang. And I'm a songwriting student at Belmont. And I knew that, they wanted me to sing a Luke Bryan song. And I was thinking to myself, the first song that Luke ever wrote that went #1 was Good Directions that Billy Currington sings. And technically that's a Luke Bryan song because he wrote it. And I knew it would mean something to him, So I told him that that's what I was doing. And, I explained that like I was a little bit older as a college student because I had been in the Navy and I'd done all that stuff. And so I was coming out to pursue songwriting. And I was like, I know from one songwriter to another, the first song you ever wrote that went #1 must be really special to you. So that's the one I'm doing today. And so backing up just a little bit, when he had my ID, I was telling him a story. I really did. Like Luke Bryan has a bar in Nashville. And I went to his bar like a couple months before the auditions. And I was trying to go in. And when I handed them my ID, I got turned away because they thought my ID was fake because it said Luke Bryan.
You told me about this.
I was like, man, I'm 27. Like, this is not a fake ID. You know what I mean? And
even if it is, I'm of age. Let me in.
Yeah. But I really did get turned away from the bar. And so I told him that like live during the interview. And he was like, oh, no. And he calls his head of security. And he was like, whatever the guy's name, he's like, hey, man, it's Luke Bryan. And I'm here with, and he pointed at me. And I was like, the other Luke Bryan. And he was like, you got to let this man in my bar, man. He said you won't let him in. I was like, yeah, man, what's going on? And he was like, look, I'm telling you right now, he's always allowed in my bar. And you tell him anytime he comes in, he can get a free beer on me. And they made good on that later because they called me up like 3 months later and we went and filmed a segment at his bar in Nashville of me like walking down the street and then like handing my ID to the bouncer and then being allowed in the bar. And then it cuts to me being on the top floor in his bar and they're handing me one of his beers. And so I got that. And then he was up on stage playing. So it was like panning from me to him. And it was just a real cool moment, but I wish they would have aired that.
So I don't know. It kind of sounds like you guys had a bit more positive experiences than I did. Like, is that?
I mean, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't disappointed that I didn't go to Hollywood, but like I had a little bit different mindset going into it, I think, because for me, and I'm sorry, I feel like I've been hogging this, but I knew, like American Idol, if you look at like all the past winners, there's like a vibe that most of the winners have. And like, I'm not that guy. That's not my vibe. I'm a good songwriter. I'm a pretty good singer. You know, I'm not like a pop icon. You know what I mean? So I knew my odds of like winning America over as a pop icon to be like any genre. This guy can do that. Like I'm strictly country. I can
Hey,
write a
so's
great
Noah.
country. That's my goal. You know
And
what I mean?
Chase
Like,
Beckham
I mean, yeah.
well, yeah, I know.
and Lane Hardy and all them.
For sure.
You
For
got the
sure.
expert right here.
But
Really
you know,
is.
they have a little bit different vibe to them. You know what I mean? Like I walk in and you're like, that guy should be in the NFL. Like I don't look like, you know, like I don't fit the mold, you know? So I kind of always had that in my head of like, I don't look like a pop icon, but I do want to be in the music industry and I want to write songs and I want to sing and I want to do all that. You know what I mean? So I wasn't sitting there like putting all my eggs in the basket of winning American Idol. I just thought it was an amazing opportunity to be a part of.
So Katie, do you care to elaborate on the interesting experience?
I'm not saying that like I mean obviously I wasn't not going to win. But I really wanted to go to Hollywood. I think at the very least. One, I've never been to LA, and I'm thinking about moving there to be a singer. And so it would have been cool to at least like experience that and experience Hollywood Week. And you know, like I wanted to do what Leah did, and I'm really good friends with Allegra Miles now and Fritz, and like I really looked up to them, and I think I just in my brain I was just so sure that I was gonna get a yes. So I think that's kind of what like the judges weren't the nicest to me, and so that was kind of upsetting. So it's like really cool that like Lionel and Luke both have retweeted you guys, and that's like really cool that they're like cheering you guys on. It just felt very the opposite for me, and yeah, unfortunately, I mean obviously I've changed my mind now, but in one of the pre interviews that I did, you know, one of the questions was like, what would getting this what would getting the golden ticket mean for you? And I was like, it would mean that everyone who's told me in the past, like I've proven them wrong, because for some reason my brain put these 3 celebrity judges on such a high pedestal that I was like, well, if they say I'm good enough, then that means I'm good enough. And if they say I'm not good enough, then I better quit. Like that is how my brain got there. So then when they all said no, I was like, well, forget it. And so I went out, I left the room, and my dad was right there, and they have footage of this somewhere because the cameras were rolling. I mean, like Lionel, you were right there too.
Yeah.
You were like, damn.
Yeah, no, I truly felt bad. Yeah.
And I got in, and I got right out, and I said it's a no, and I don't want to do this anymore. Like I immediately was like, I'm done singing, like forever. And so a little dramatic, but hello, I'm a girl, I'm allowed to be. But then we did the post interview, and it was funny because they like rushed me down to the post interview, and I was like, can I please, I just want to go back to my hotel room, listen to Zombies, cry it out, and then I'll like be fine. But they rushed me down to this interview, so I'm like hyperventilating. I'm so glad that was not aired. I'm so glad they did not air me crying and hyperventilating. But I'm like passing all these other people who are just like holding their tickets, and I'm like, oh my God, congratulations. I'm so happy for you. And then I like did my interview, and the people, all the producers, the camera up and the light guy, the sound guy in that interview, I was like, damn, I was so much fun with you guys a couple hours ago. I bet you hate doing these interviews now. And yeah, it was just yeah, it was really sad. It was really disappointing. I mean, like, yeah, I was disappointed. So yeah, so it's interesting hearing your guys's experiences.
Lionel,
Sorry, I didn't mean to like bring the house down.
No, I was just about to say, Lionel, I was just curious what your reaction was because you mentioned that you were there when Katy left the room.
Yeah. So I mean, I like cheering everybody on. I'm an optimist. I got to think highly of everybody. So to see someone disappointed, it's a struggle because you feel their emotion, especially when she was explaining it right now. You can feel her emotion through just Zoom. Imagine you're there right next to somebody. You can feel it even more because you're seeing it happen, 10 feet away from you. So one thing I will say, Katy, that if you want to continue singing, don't let anybody tell you what to do or have you shift paths because of a no. I mean, I bring it back to even Ashley's story, which is why I messaged her on the side once I saw she went through. It's just that's an example of just being relentless and no matter how many no's, you can still move forward and move on with your passions. So I want to make sure that you are told that today. So yeah. As far as my experience goes, I'd have to say very similar to Luke. I didn't set any high expectations. I prepped to sing a song. I also did that original rap that you saw on there slightly. It was actually like a minute, but they only aired like 10, 15 seconds of it. And then, got the opportunity to meet Lionel. He came out from behind the judges' stands and, shook my hand, gave me a hug, and we chat for a minute before I left the room. So, similar thing, just didn't set my expectations too high and walked in there just like wanting the experience of being on a show and meeting some cool artists and seeing what it's like behind the scenes because I've been watching the show since I was in elementary school.
What about you two, Katy, Luke? Have you watched Idol before? Well, it sounds like, I mean, Katy, you had rooted on Leah, so you knew about her before. And then, Luke, you mentioned that you kind of had an idea of who the artists were that may have won the show. So it sounds like everybody has been in tune with Idol before you went on the show.
Yeah, like I used to, I'm gonna be totally honest with you. My attention span is not the greatest for like long season TV shows. So what I really tend to do is like the YouTube compilations of like the best of the best.
Yeah.
I would watch those to get ideas of songs to do cover videos of, so I've done that for years and years and years. Like, anytime you see like the top 20, I'm like, oh, these songs are going to be bangers. So like, I'll listen to them and then like, I'll do my own, cause I love to take songs and like make them country. You know what I mean? Cause like, stick to what you know. And that's what I really enjoyed out of it. But I will say just on the expectation side of things and everything, the one thing that happened that I was very excited about, that was just like a full circle moment for me, was like whenever I sang, when they were talking to me, it was all so positive. I was absolutely not expecting those. Like Lionel was like, he was like, you have the kind of voice that I want to listen to when I'm like relaxing at home, ready to go to sleep. Like you just have a really soothing voice. And Katy was like, your voice is so powerful. I love it. And Luke was like, I love everything about you. And I was like, oh, sick. And then they were all like, but nah. But, whenever I sang, I got through like 2/3 of the song that Luke wrote. And then he got up from around, and mind you, like we already did like 8 minutes of like playful, all that stuff before we did anything. Like we bear hugged Katy Perry and like carried her around the room and stuff. And, but when I got like 2/3 of the way singing, he just got up and started walking over to the piano. And I was just like, oh, here we go. And he sat down, and then we did the last verse and chorus as a duet together. And I wish they would have aired. They showed the one part of him wanting me to sing another part. And then after that, I was like, no, me and you need to do the end of it so that we can harmonize on the like last verse and chorus. And he was like, oh yeah. And so we did that, and it was awesome. And that was a really special moment, getting to sing with Luke.
Would you try out again now that I know that information?
Would I?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. I feel like if I could pick my own song, because like they made me pick a Luke Bryan song. So like and it's nothing about his songs in particular, but like I do more like runs and stuff, like kind of Chris Stapleton type stuff. And I think I could have showcased what I could do better with more wide ranged song selection, So I would definitely try out again.
That's so interesting to me that, like, I mean, that's so incredible that you had that experience. And because I don't know if you saw like a little bit what was aired, but I had like this poster that I had, and like they didn't show any of the story behind it, but basically Katy Perry was my very first concert, and that poster was from that concert, and I'd saved it for like 14 years for no reason other than I don't know. And then I brought it and I showed it, and it was just like she didn't care. And so I was like that yeah, I'm like, I don't know if it was because like I was the first one and then like she just wasn't expecting it. And so but just like, you know, Lionel came out and like got a picture with you, and like Luke came and sang with you, and I'm like, that's so cool. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little jealous.
I love the Katy Perry poster though. I
Yeah,
thought
I
that was
remember.
Thank
awesome.
you.
I knew about this at the auditions before you
Mhm.
even went in because you told me the backstory behind
Yeah.
it.
I remember
Yeah.
I saw the poster too, and I really thought it was a sweet, sentimental thing.
I thought at the very least she would like sign it. And I'd be like,
Oh, that would have been
brilliant.
awesome.
Yeah.
You didn't bring the pen though.
Yeah. But she
And by
was
the
like,
way,
I will say though, there's definitely a certain burden to having have been the first one of us to go up, because I really think, like, you remember during the red carpet thing, they hit like one of the executive producers came and grabbed me and made me go sit down very far
yes,
away.
I remember
they-
that.
They wanted to hide me from Luke because they knew if he looked up and saw some giant guy, he'd like probably come over and talk to him. So we were a secret to them.
Yes.
And so I think they were just so caught off guard by you being the first one, they probably didn't understand that it was like a bit.
Yeah.
And that's probably why you didn't get the reaction from Katy that you were looking for. Because
Yeah.
I think they were like good and primed by the time I got it. You know what I mean?
Right. Oh, for sure. For sure.
And
Yeah.
that's just like a luck of the draw thing. Like, it's not your fault. It's just the way that shook out, you know?
Yeah. It was all very, very interesting, and it all felt very planned. And I feel like if I had known that it was all planned beforehand, before going in, because like I said, I was like, I auditioned for this completely on my own. And so I'm like, you know, if I had said that my name wasn't Katy Perry, if I had said, you know, I could play the what if game, you know, until the day I die. But, you know, was I only there because of my name? Was I not there because they actually thought I could sing? Did they just want the TV segment? So yeah, it was kind of like, reality. Like I knew reality TV is fake, but it was like it became a whole different, it shed like a whole different light on it, that I was like, oh, okay. Y'all could have told me that like there were other two guys roaming around here, and like it was just a whole big thing. And yeah. Yeah.
well, when I was there, I was asking other people, how did you get in touch with Idol? What was your process of getting here? And I did talk to a handful of people who were, approached. So at that point, I didn't know how many, like what the ratio was, but I did know that it was not unnormal to help fill in some casts with people that needed to be reached out to if they didn't naturally get a bunch of applications in or people reaching out to them directly. That just in my head kind of put it perspective to me. Okay. I'm not the only one. And it wasn't even just you two. There was other people that I talked to as well that were also hit up on Instagram and stuff.
So we were Lionel, were you 3B?
I cannot remember at this point.
Whatever. We all went one after the other.
We had to be, because we all did the same thing. Because you were talking about earlier, you said my day as if it was different from our day, but I was like, dude, I think we were the same day because we did the same. But we were all day 3B, and everyone that I talked to in 3B, like 85% of them were like approached on Instagram or or something like that. So the majority of people from that particular day, and see, like 3A were all like regular auditioners. So we were like grouped, like, because I was doing some research, because once I saw y'all, I was like, something's weird. You know what I mean? Because like I said, like I do want to reiterate, we didn't know anything was up until like Katy and I met each other in the elevator, and then we met Lionel probably that night.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I was sitting there, and like I was even talking to my dad, and I was like, this is peculiar at the very least.
Yeah.
So I was sitting there and starting to ask everybody like how they got on to the live TV part.
Yeah, that's what I was doing too.
I think there was only like 4 or 5 people from our entire day that were regular auditioners.
Bennett, how do you feel about that? Because I mean, I listened to a few episodes of yours over the last week, and there are people who are referred or scouted, and there are people who audition directly. What's like the ratio like on your end? Because you've talked to a lot of people involved.
I actually never know what's going to happen when I ask people. I ask everybody, were you auditioning yourself? Were you scouted? I had no idea going into this interview what each of you guys were going to say. And I think it's pretty insightful to hear you guys talk about the ratio that you experienced just in that one city alone, because I don't know the when you combine all three cities and how many were scouted versus auditioned themselves.
Yeah.
The people who audition themselves, I think, I want to give credit to the fact that it's such a genuine experience to be able to still try out yourself. And in most cases with Idol Across America, it's like, you're just on a break at your job, or you're going out on a whim. You don't even think, like, I know Ashley was saying the other day, like, she was like, I was like, I didn't even think that I would have any chance. I was like so tempted to log out of the Zoom, and then I did it, and then I got it. There's so many stories of just having a regular day-to-day life thinking, oh, this is never going to work, and then it does. Next thing you know, you're going to go meet the judges. On the other hand, with getting scouted, it's so interesting because there's such a wide range of people who are scouted, depending on the number of followers you have and the experience that you have. And when I say followers, we're talking about like people with multi-million following number of followers, that they're practically influencers, and then seeing who airs and who doesn't. And sometimes there's even influencers who are well known on TikTok, but then they don't get aired at all. Just because they have scouted influencers doesn't mean that's who gets aired or that's who the judges pick. So I don't think it actually necessarily matters what the ratio is in terms of who does well on the show. Whatever method is done, it's about who America connects with.
Yeah.
Regardless of the method.
I just didn't know, like, when you interview people, if you can see, it's like a 50-50 type of thing.
Yeah, no, I couldn't tell you the answer, to be honest.
Gotcha.
I just want to say, it's really interesting that you brought up the whole like influencer thing, and I didn't start doing my research until after we were on like the plane home, and but yeah, it was just. So one of the things they said to me in the room is they were like, if you want to be a singer, like they were like, do you go out and sing out in Chicago, which is where I'm from? And I was like, no. I was like, well, I'm a full-time student with 2 part-time jobs, so it's like, I sing a lot at school, but it's not so they were like, well, if you want to be a singer, go out and go do it, like go out and book places and like do all these things. And it which in my brain I was kind of like, I thought like if I thought American Idol was like, we're looking for like the unknown, like Kelly Clarkson was like an unknown, and then she became Kelly Clarkson. Noah Thompson like was pretty an unknown, and then he became Noah Thompson. Were
they gigging in their hometown though beforehand?
I don't think Noah was.
Definitely not Noah.
But like Leah, for example, and even Hunter Girl, like both of them were like already established artists. They had already put out music. So it was just very interesting to see a lot of the people who auditioned this year were already established artists, already like, had music out, was working with, producers and like other musicians, which, I wish I had the connections to be able to do that. If you have any, let me know. Luke, you're a songwriter. Hit me up. But
you're gonna buy some new songs, Luke.
But it's yeah. So it was just really interesting where it was like I was kind of the people where I was like, no, I'm an unknown, but I'm hoping that like this show will help me not be an unknown. Where it was like, there are other people where it's like, well, I'm already a verified artist on Instagram, and like this is just like another piece of work.
Who was the girl on that had like the teal shirt with the purple under long sleeve blonde hair? She was in Vegas too.
I know who you're talking about.
Avon, the 16-year-old girl?
Yes. Yeah. So I saw her get like reposted on something the other day, and then I went to her page. Yeah, she has like some music out and stuff already.
Yeah.
And I was like, dang, she's in high school.
Yeah, or like Michael released his first song, which like go stream Honey, it's amazing. But like, you know, I'm like, dude, how are you doing that? Like, how can so it was really interesting. And like Michael was on The Voice before this, and
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
there was
Duetted with
another
Allegra
girl-
Miles, actually.
Yes, with Allegra. I love Allegra. I could go on and on. Anyway, but yes, and then it was interesting because when I was leaving the hotel the next day, I ran into another girl. I think her name's Josie. But I was like, I was like, how'd it go for you? She was like, no. And I was like,
It was so good too.
I know. Well, she was also on The Voice. So I was like,
Ah,
okay,
interesting.
well, you can't say you can't sing because you were on The Voice and you like advanced rounds on The Voice, and now you're auditioning for American Idol and you got 3 no's, or you got at least 2 no's. I'm like, you can't say. So that also put it into perspective. There was a lot of things where for some reason I did put all my eggs, I handed all my eggs to Katie, Luke, and Lionel, and I was like, if you say no, that's it for me. And you know, going back, and even when I went out, I went out to a bar when Idol premiered with my best friend, and I was like, I'm gonna order a Long Island iced tea, and we're gonna watch this because I had no idea what was gonna happen. But I said to her right after, I was like, because even she said, like Katie and Lionel applauded after I sang. And like Luke kind of like threw his pencil down. He was like, well, and so I took that as a good sign. And then they were like, no. I was like,
No.
okay. Well, thank you so much. And so I said to my best friend, I was like, it's so interesting for me to think about now that I really handed my entire career, my entire talent over to these 3 people who, you know, they were told no earlier in their careers too. And
Yeah.
like, you know, it's interesting that at that day I was like, well, it's all up to you guys. And it's like, that's not how life works. And
Yeah.
you know, yeah.
Well, I would give yourself some credit because you got to think how many people are actually going through these Zoom rounds before you even meet, like, get a chance to meet the producers.
For sure.
So how I thought of it is one big, now that we have technology like this, right? There's a huge bucket of people. Then that gets narrowed down to even the second round of Zoom or producer meetings or whatever it may be. You know, some people meet 3 times or even 6 times. And then you finally get the opportunity to go fly out. And so the people that end up flying out is probably still a fraction of probably how many people were on Zoom. So that in enough is good in my opinion.
For sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A little perspective.
I was just gonna say about Josie, when she came out and was like sad and didn't have a ticket, me and Trey and Braden and Michael were all sitting together. And when she walked by, like, and Colton too, like the 5 of us were just sitting there. We've been like cutting it up and talking. And she came out and was like all sad. And we all walked up to her and we're like, you didn't make it? And she was like, no. And we just looked at each other. We're like, oh my God. We're like, this is about to be rough.
Yeah.
Well, and I was only sitting there, you and I were only sitting there for a short amount of time, but I remember the first like 3 people we saw go out. I think I saw 3 people leave the room and they all got golden tickets. So I was like, okay, yeah, hyping myself up, like, yeah, I'm gonna be the 4th person to leave with a golden ticket. And like, you know, I was so pumped. And then I was the sad one. And I didn't even get to meet Ryan Seacrest.
He doesn't, I mean, he pops in and out. I mean, I from the people I've talked to over the episodes I've done, he kind of just makes appearances.
No, he's so busy. I don't think he sleeps. I don't know how he is still alive. Because yeah, we saw him, or I saw him, I'll speak for myself. But I saw him right outside. He did like a segment. And then I was like, oh my gosh, he's going to talk to me before I go in the room. I'm so excited to talk to Ryan. He did that segment with her. And then he walked over there, changed his shirt, and was like, okay, guys, I'll see you in New Orleans. And then left on a plane to go back to New York to film Kelly and Ryan. I was like, dude.
That's an interesting topic you just mentioned, Katie. Like, he doesn't sleep. I was thinking about that with the judges even. If they're in there from like 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day, we have the opportunity to go relax, like what Luke was saying, at the restaurant. You can even like go to your room per se if you needed to for a bit and just lay down until you got the next text.
Yeah.
But they probably just they had to be on it for 15 hours straight, sleep for a few hours, then go do it right over again for 3-4 days in a row.
Why she chugged that coffee in mine.
I really feel like the people that were auditioning at like 8 a.m. had a way better chance than the people auditioning at like 9 p.m.
Yeah. They were
Yeah.
like by 9 p.m. they were done. And we auditioned around like 3 or
Midday.
4, right?
Midday.
Yeah, I mean, it was closer to 5. It was like 4:30. So
It was interesting for me because, and I don't know if this was all again circumstantial, but my dad and I we were in our hotel room for a couple hours, and then I was like, oh, the free lunch is downstairs, let's go get that. So we just happened to go downstairs. We were eating there, we were sitting there for like 10 minutes when a producer comes by and he's like, hey, you're ready to audition now. And I was like, what? I didn't get the call. I got the like, oh, she's sitting over there, let's go grab her. So that was
well, that's why you got to be ready at all times, huh?
Yeah. Well, I also was very much like, oh, okay, I guess we're auditioning right now. But yeah, that segment where she's chugging coffee right before our segment, yeah, she did that to me. Like I was in the room when she did that. So when she threw the coffee, yeah, and I was like, okay, anyway, hi. But yeah.
There's so many times, Katie, when the producers will randomly decide, hey, it's your turn when you weren't expecting it. They'll decide to pull someone when they weren't on the schedule, or they'll switch people. A lot of contestants, they'll go and it's like, you're not going to go for 3 more hours. We're going to swap you out. And they're like making these decisions. I feel like it has to do with personality. And I feel almost like it's a great thing to think about. I know it was a disappointing experience, but maybe one thing to walk away with and be like, oh, wow, that's cool, is that you probably were somebody that they were like, oh, wow, she's really fun. She's going to wake the judges up and make them excited, which might be why they wanted to bring you in.
But I also did sing a pretty loud song. So they probably were like, let's cut the ballads and bring a Queen song in here. So
even when America votes, that's just a limited audience of people that are deciding. And
for sure,
on one night, there's only a few million people that are voting on one episode. And this is a huge country, and there's so many other countries that can listen to the same performer sing. It is a lot of perspective to think about as I hear you guys reflect on what it's like to kind of put your career in the hands of 3 people and then America's votes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really am frustrated with myself that I let those 3 people like decide how I was gonna go about with my career. And obviously, like I said, that's changed now after many nights crying and therapy sessions, but no. Yeah, it's definitely like I definitely obviously have a different mindset now. It was just at the time it was also just very stressful. Like I was up, like I also probably was crying because I was so tired. I think like I got in the day before at like 1 a.m, and then we had to be up at like 6 a.m.
Yeah.
So it was just a very like I was like, I'm just so tired. I just want
And then it's like, 6 a.m. call time or something. Even though you're not doing anything, but you may, but you still have to be awake. You're like,
and they're like, now go to your hotel room. And I'm like, can I explore Las Vegas? And they're like, no, stay in your hotel room until we tell you to move. We're in there for like 4 hours. My dad's like, do you think we could have like left? And I'm like, no, we can't. They told us to stay
because the moment you step out, you're gonna get that call saying it's your turn.
Yep.
Well, I am really curious about what you guys have done since the show and what has been going on after American Idol, but it did air really recently. You filmed it a little while back, but it aired really recently. So, and we were talking, like 3 weeks ago that all of a sudden you guys were on TV. So I'm curious how this has affected your lives, what it's been like to get the reaction, social media, people in your life seeing you on television.
I was about to ask them that. That's so funny that you brought that up.
Well, you go ahead, Luke.
Well, I mean, I just want to ask, like, just a head nod. Did positive things happen for you guys after that?
I mean, I wouldn't say anything crazy positive, but it was cool reaction.
I mean, like, this guy right here asked me if I wanted to do a podcast, and I was like, "That's cool."
Yeah, I mean,
there you go.
That's an example. Like, I got like 4 podcasts coming up and stuff like that. And
Really? Oh, I just got this one. Wait, what are you doing?
Bring Katey along.
It's because you had the most airtime.
we'll talk after. We'll see if they want to do a double, triple up thing. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I actually had some pretty cool stuff happen. Like my whole like hometown in North Carolina like rallied. Like they were like, "This is our guy," and then I was on for like 8 seconds. They were like, "He's still our guy."
yeah.
But I don't. It kind of went crazy for me on TikTok. I put up like he made the meme of me, the Spider-Man meme. I don't know if you saw that. It was hilarious, and he put that on Twitter. And so then I took that and like I took some of the film and like did a compilation video and put it on my TikTok, and it's got like 3.5 million views right now. And I gained like 7,000 followers and got like 200,000 likes on it, and like. So I've been like having a lot of people like reach out to me about that. And then through that, they're seeing my original songs and my covers on TikTok. So now I'm getting like, when are you releasing this? When are you doing that? And like, from like a sort of selfish mindset, I just want you to think about this. Like as a songwriter, right? The way to get indoors in Nashville or LA or anywhere is like at this point, the way the world is with technology, you've got to have a social media presence.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people in town that like when you get meetings initially with people, they're like, "How many followers do you have?" That's the first question. It's not what kind of songs do you write or how good of a writer. You know what I'm saying?
Business. They need to sell tickets.
So that to me, I mean, like I know 7,000 is not a lot, but I had 180 followers on TikTok before that. You know what I mean?
Nice, dude. 180 to 7,000.
That's what I'm saying. It's like that's been wild. And for me, like I really want to. I mean, obviously, I want to write for myself. Are you guys aware of Hardy, the artist?
I'm not.
So Hardy's like somebody that I kind of view as like a journey that I kind of want to take. He set himself apart. He got a degree in songwriting, and then he started proving to people that he could write good country songs. And then he like wrote a bunch for like Florida Georgia Line and like just that whole camp. Like he wrote a bunch of songs like that, started proving he could write for bigger and bigger people. And then people were like, "Oh, this guy sings too. Let's like let him open up for Florida Georgia."
Yeah.
That's what I want to do. Like that's the path that I see as the most logical way.
Yeah.
Like I can sing, I can play, I can get up there and have good stage presence, but I'm really good at writing. And I think if I'm going to make it in the industry, my writing is going to get me there first. And then I can prove that I deserve to be playing after that. So this whole experience for me has been phenomenal. Like I've had a bunch of like meetings set up because of the notoriety I got from 9 seconds on American Idol.
Yeah.
I'm very thankful for that.
Very nice. Yeah, like I mentioned, similar thing happened to me, not to that extent. But I don't think it's anything crazy out of the norm. I did set a record on like one of my posts. The Lionel Richie tweet, I think, got retweeted several times. So that ended up getting like on Twitter now, you can see how many people have actually like seen the tweet. I think around like 20,000 views on that tweet.
Nice.
I posted the photo of Lionel and myself, and I've never probably got more than maybe 300 to 500 likes, but this one ended up reaching like 975, almost 1,000.
Yeah.
There's 250 comments on there, and so I was like, all right. But it's so funny because I started promoting something after that, and then like 3 posts later, I'm getting like 20 comments. I'm like, oh, what happened to the other 230 people who are helping me out 2 weeks ago? But no, it's all love. I'm happy that people noticed it, and Twitter, on Instagram, and got a local blogger write up the experience. Obviously, ended up on this podcast, and then was talking to a local magazine called Las Vegas Weekly, or Las Vegas Magazine, here in Vegas, and we were talking about the topic and what my journey was. But unfortunately, this, because it's Las Vegas Weekly, they take stories from that week only. And because it was 2 weeks behind, it was already not relevant enough news for the platform. But nonetheless, I was talking to the people from the publication, and they're saying, well, next time you have another story like this, you have our numbers, our emails, submit to us in advance when you know it's coming out, so we can get more publicity around you as an artist, and take advantage of it next time around. So it's kind of a learning experience all around, and how to market it and use it to my advantage for next.
I get on this TikTok, man. I gotta get on that grind. Yeah, no, it's just you and me, Bennett. No, I don't want to say it's because like you know, Katy Perry didn't like retweet me, which like that would have been real cool. But not as much, but part like a part of me is okay with that. And then the other part of me is I'm like, damn, that would have been cool. But yeah, you thank you for that. Like I said, I went to a bar when it aired, and like because we my best friend, she asked the bartender if we could change the channel, and he's like why are we changing the channel, and she's like because she's about to be on TV, and he's like okay. So then I like went up and I ordered another drink, and he's like, so I hear you were on TV, and I was like yeah, and he was like, was it everything you wanted it to be, and I was like no. And he was like, okay. And then like
2 drinks.
Yeah, and then like a bunch of people kept coming up to me afterwards, and they were like, you were just on that, and I was like yeah, I was in the pink jumpsuit, no big deal.
You rock that jumpsuit, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Luke Bryan called it Pepto-Bismol, but I thought it was great. So, you know.
Pepto makes people feel better.
Well, I don't think that's what
there you go.
But you know, let's say that's what he meant by it. But yeah, it has gotten me the strength to put out more music. I think for me especially, I'm just a very insecure person when it comes to my singing capabilities, and that's just come from like trauma growing up. And I think that's another reason why I think I put so much pressure on myself on this, was because I was like, this is the validation I need, and then I didn't get the validation. So I think because I didn't get the validation, I'm like, well, why would I put out myself singing more? And it's very twisted up in here. It's very but you know, I'm working through that, working on putting more music out there. I really want to get better at songwriting. I have like a whole idea for an EP. I just have to like find the right people to help me out with that. And yeah, so it's yeah, it's been an experience.
I think you guys also kind of answered the question about what you've been up to a little bit since the show, but also, you know, I'm really curious. I don't know like what the reaction was when you were approached about coming together and seeing each other, but what are you guys feeling right now as you have been reflecting about Idol together in one room? This is the therapy question.
I'm like, well, I will tell my therapist on Friday that I mean, like, I have to be honest, I'm a little sad that I didn't get I didn't have as positive an experience as you guys did. I mean, like, Luke, your experience sounds like a dream. I'm like, man, and then especially like you got to see like you got to go to Luke's bar afterwards, and like I know it wasn't like a dream, but
awesome.
like it sounds really cool, and especially like the TikToks growing up, the TikToks. Why do I sound like I'm like 60? But just like the media, the social presence you're getting is incredible. And I do have to say it is like great to see all of you. Lionel, I know you and I were able to connect pretty quickly, but like Luke, I thought it's hard to find your Instagram. Like it was hard to find you.
Type in Luke Bryan, you'll find it.
So well, I'm glad I was able to through this, because I was like, oh, that's his Instagram.
That's been my whole. I mean, I'm sure it was similar for you guys, but like anytime I've ever met a friend, and I've never met a stranger, like I've got whatever the population of the world is, I got like a third of them as friends, just from meeting people, because I can't stand to not make friends with strangers. But anytime I like add somebody's socials, I'm like, let me just get yours. You're not gonna find me.
I
That's
mean,
funny.
I tried going like Luke Bryan, and I was like,
Yeah, that's not
I
gonna work.
can't find you. I
But even
can't.
like as an artist in Nashville, I can't go by that. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
definitely, if there's anywhere to not be Luke Bryan, it's Nashville.
it's
It's all about the
Nashville.
middle name.
Yeah, so I go by my first and middle name.
Okay, that's right.
And that's Luke Azell. So if you type in Luke
Yeah.
L. Bryan, it'll come up.
Okay.
But I'm going to slowly transition that to just Luke Azell, because Luke Bryan's just too convoluted of a name to work
For
with.
sure.
The whole experience, like what happened after, you know, I mean, I didn't predict that to happen. I didn't predict to have a video get like 3 million views and all that stuff. But you know, I don't think, especially because I wasn't looking for it, it's been such a welcome surprise. But
Mhm.
for me, it's not like I'm trying to go like crazy on TikTok. Like I just view that as like, this is now a good tool and talking point to get me in the doors with like record labels in town and publishing houses in town
For
to
sure.
to show credibility as like a writer that is listenable. You know, because
Yeah.
even my other stuff, like I have a couple original songs that are up to like 25,000 or 30,000 views and stuff like that, and they're just originals. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, not just originals, but they
Yeah.
have nothing to do with American Idol. So like that felt really good.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's
So
really what I view as a positive.
yeah, I'm taking a lot of positives out of this as well. Well, first and foremost, did you guys know that we were on Jimmy Kimmel?
Yes,
Yeah.
I was gonna say that. Thank you. You were the one who I found out through you. I was
Well,
like,
what happened was I had two of my friends' moms from high school message me a video on social media,
Ashley messaged
and it
me.
wasn't even like and Ashley did it too.
Yeah.
It wasn't even like a friend of mine. It was my friend's parents who were just so happened to watch TV, and then they get a clip of it, send it over to me. And I'm like, oh wow, Jimmy Kimmel, like that's the biggest talk show, you know? And so I'm like, okay, got the little 10 seconds of fame right there.
Mhm.
Obviously American Idol, we actually got aired. There's a chance that we didn't. You know, there was many people in that room who
Oh, for
stayed
sure.
there for, you know, did 15-hour days for 3-4 days straight, and they didn't even get any airtime. So I took those two things as a positive. And then the fact that you can find it on Hulu, which is like what, first or second most streamed network or platform. So, you know, I'm kind of taking that and putting it in as like a part of my portfolio, the way I'm pitching myself as an artist, you know, found on Hulu and ABC Network. And then the last thing that was a real big positive thing for me was because I did the original rap at the end and said, hey, I wrote something about you guys. Can I do this for you? And then a piece of that got aired. They actually had to license that song for me because it's an original that I wrote. So I have a sync licensing deal through ABC Network now in contract.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've actually tried to, as a producer, I work with this company that needs like original music for like commercials and stuff. And it's not actually no lyrics. A lot of it's just beats. Make a happy beat for this Verizon commercial. And I'll sit there and I'll dish something up and I'll pitch it to them, but I won't get signed. But I finally land a sync deal, and it was out of nowhere from an experience that I didn't even think that would happen with. So that's definitely positive. You know, to say for a fact that I have a deal, a sync licensing deal with ABC Network, is awesome. And yeah, just kind of using these things in my advantage to try to get publicity here in my hometown, and then eventually, hopefully, out of the hometown.
Any final thoughts about either American Idol or anything else that any of you want to share about what you're up to or what people should look out for? Really anything. This is free for all. Whoever wants to speak up.
I do DJ full time, and then I run a music studio here in Las Vegas. Me and my buddy rent a spot. We split the rent, and basically we just record artists out of there. And then we also teach music lessons, DJ lessons, and production lessons. So not necessarily instruments, but using technology to our advantage with production and DJ equipment. And so that's what I've been up to. And on the original music side, I just had a music video come out last Friday. And I was actually even using like the American Idol stuff in the last couple of weeks to get attention to me promoting that. and that just dropped. What was that on YouTube? What was last Friday's date? Just a couple days ago. And yeah, so whether if you guys are ever in Vegas, come see a show. I'll be DJing downtown on the Strip pretty much every Friday and Saturday night. If you guys want to come over and record, even Katie, you want to put out a song and come record at my studio, hit me up. And yeah, the new music video came out Friday. So if you guys want to subscribe on my YouTube channel, I'll make sure to hit yours back. I think I just did yours a couple days ago, Bennett.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll add those links in the description, everything like that. Katie, Luke, I mean, Luke, you mentioned Belmont. Katie, I don't know if you want to talk about school or any of the projects you've got going on, but.
I mean, I am a musical theater student. And I just finished doing a show at my school. I graduate in May. So I'm very excited for that. And then I'm going to see where life takes me. I don't want to stay in Chicago. It's far too cold for me here. But I would love to go to LA and meet up with Allegra and see what she's up to. See if we want to write together, and but other than that, I may or may not have like just me singing, posting on Instagram coming soon, but
do it.
I don't have TikTok yet because I'm scared of it, but maybe Luke will convince me.
It's definitely, there's no rhyme or reason to what works and what doesn't work on TikTok. Just get out there and be weird, try it. With the Belmont stuff, I mean, that's going really cool. I love, I don't know, I can't remember when you said you were in the songwriting classes, but every songwriting professor I've had has been so nice and so helpful. And I've actually got to co-write with 3 of them. And all of those are awesome. And that's like, that felt good because like, I wrote my first song like 18 months ago, and now I've written a lot, and they're get monumentally better. But I got into the songwriting program writing my very first song ever. So that felt really cool to me. And lately, I mean, I've been having a lot of great co-writes with people, meeting a lot of, I don't want to say like, not like stars or anything, but I've met a lot of people that have some influence in town. And I have a lot of things coming up with like opportunities to write with people that are like way above my current pay grade. And that feels really good. I got actually, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say this, but I'll say it and we can just make it whatever it is. But I had an opportunity. I get to go to Johnny Cash's ranch soon, to the studio there, and do a little secret surprise thing there. So that's pretty awesome. Got to meet John Carter Cash and his wife, Anna Christina, and they were super nice. But, I've just meeting the people I've been able to meet and getting to write with people and learn, like co-writing is such an essential part of being a writer, because you get to sit there and like merge your feelings with someone else and be vulnerable, and really like, it's such a networking thing, but like for your soul, you know what I mean? To like get there and get to experience other people's takes on things, and it just broadens your horizons so much. And I've grown a lot as a writer through that. So I'm just excited with all the stuff I have coming up to write, and my potential meetings with people to, because the goal for me is to get a record deal, a publishing house deal, that kind of thing. So I'm trending towards that right now, and it feels good.
I'm so thankful that you guys have all been here today. Lionel, Luke, Katie, this has been so much fun. Anything else? I just want to make sure we're not missing anything. Any final thoughts?
I just wanted to tell Luke that I have an Elvis tattoo. So
Really?
that's cool. I do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Guys, if you enjoyed this conversation, make sure you follow us on Instagram at Unaired Podcast. If I can promote something else, I am the production supervisor on the Victoriously Crazy podcast. I don't know if any of you guys ever watched the show Victorious on Nickelodeon. If you remember the character Andre's grandma always running around saying, Andre, there's like, what did she say? She said like, there's another me on the wall. Grandma, no, that's just you looking in the mirror. She's the host of it, the actress, and we interview other cast members. Matt Bennett, who played Robbie, Jen Carter played Tori's mom. There was a episode where there was a panda bear running around and you never knew who was under the mask. So tomorrow we're going to meet the person who was playing the panda. So Victoriously Crazy Podcast, that's the Instagram to follow for that. You can also join our American Idol Unaired Patreon Idol Unaired exclusive for bonus content. I write weekly articles about what goes on behind the scenes at American Idol. Guys, Lionel, Luke, Katey, if you want to plug your socials, anything else one last time?
Yes, I'll start at lrich.music. And that's on all platforms. So hopefully I'll get a few follows. Passing it off to Luke.
Yeah, on all platforms at luke.uzzell.bryan, and that's Uzzell.
And I'm at Katy_Perry, KateyParry.
And I'm Ryan Seac. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you guys very much, Lionel, Luke, and Katey. This is American Idol Unaired.